What's up, everyone? Welcome to the GEICO 500 Top 5 DFS Picks video for Sunday, April 24th at Talladega Super Speedway. As always, I'm your host, Chris Pennell. You can find me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and this video is presented by PrizePicks. In today's video, we are going over general track strategy, how to approach the slate from a DFS perspective, my top 5 favorite plays on the slate. Keep in mind this video is being recorded pre-practice and qualifying, so some of my thoughts and opinions on these drivers could end up changing throughout the weekend. And this weekend's race is going to be very heavily skewed on where these guys end up starting, so making sure you're staying up to date on this information will be very beneficial to you in creating fantasy NASCAR lineups this weekend. And if you want that up-to-date info and analysis, you can find me and Jason on the Awesemo Live Before Lock show, breaking down the entire slate, answering any questions you may end up having after qualifying. And as far as how we should approach this slate from a DFS perspective, Super Speedway racing does create a very unique strategy compared to most tracks, because you're going to hear it quite often this weekend, no matter where you look or read. Stacking the back, while popular, is a proven winning strategy at Super Speedways, and the reason being is that the way the style of racing here is at tracks like Daytona and Talladega, and I guess now Atlanta, they're going to be in tight packs very close to each other. You're not going to see anybody get a large lead. We're not going to have these guys spread out. We're going to be 2 and 3 wide at times, and one slight mistake or one aggressive block can set the entire field into a frenzy, and we could lose around half the cars in the big one. Now, the spring Talladega race typically is the most calm of the bunch, but we should still expect wrecks to happen. It's just a matter of how many cars end up getting wrecked, because we're not going to have a completely clean race. But even then, when there's minor wrecks, we still see place differential being king, and that's the way we are going to build lineups this weekend, mainly focusing on place differential and a little bit of finishing position. We do not have to worry about dominator points. We do not have that many laps. Talladega is a huge track, and the one other positive thing for not wanting to look at dominator points is that fast laps are completely random throughout the field since everyone is drafting. So the guy up front, while he is getting laps led points, he's not picking up fast laps just continually. You might pick up a couple here and there, but with fast laps being weighted heavier than laps led points, they're just not going to be as something that you're going to really pay attention to too much. And plus, the leaders get interchanged throughout the entire race the way this race sets up. So not focusing on dominator points is another key thing to do. And the most important thing trying to get different with your lineups is that leaving salary on the table is something that's encouraged at these types of tracks. I get a lot of questions each and every single week asking how much salary you can leave on the table, and you can honestly leave as much salary you want on the table. We've seen some instances at a super speedway where there's nearly $20,000 left on the table, so do not be afraid at all to build some very ugly looking lineups, because as I always say, the worse your lineup looks on paper, usually the better it does at a Daytona or Talladega style of race. So getting into the picks, we'll start with number 5, and he's a favorite of mine as a cheapie at Super Speedways, but it's Ty Dillon, $6,100 over on DraftKings, only $4,500 over on FanDuel. And while I am naming each guy's price off, keep in mind salary is not really a big issue this week, and just play whoever the heck you want. But Ty Dillon's a guy who's always been a staple of mine at Super Speedways. He typically does qualify near the back, but he's just absolutely excellent at grabbing good finishes at these. Looking at his history at Talladega, we're close to 50 DraftKings points per race and an average finish of 10.5 with 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. And if you're looking at the past 7 races at Super Speedways, we're talking about an average finish inside the top 20, close to 40 DraftKings points per race and 4 top 15s. While he doesn't have huge name value, he is just very, very good at staying alive to the end and picking up a good finish, which is all I can ask for from a guy that's super cheap at $6,100 on DK and only $4,500 over on FanDuel. And moving on to number 4, he is no favorite of any of us NASCAR DFS players, as he seems to do pretty poorly for us each and every single weekend, no matter what kind of track we're at, even if it looks fantastic on paper. But it's Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $7,600 over on DraftKings and only $7,500 over on FanDuel. But any single time we're at a Super Speedway, you have to have some interest in Ricky, because he is one of the better drivers in the field. And especially at Talladega, when it comes to Daytona versus Talladega, I always prefer him at Dega. Just seems to perform a little bit better here. And I would guess his chances of wrecking are maybe somewhat slimmer. But the upside is certainly there. He is a plate race winner. He actually has one of the better average running positions in the entire field at these track types. The problem is just staying alive for him, because he's got an average finish of 20.5, but just have a top 5, couple of top 10s, and like I said, he is a recent race winner here. It was several years ago. But the upside is certainly there for Stenhouse. He's a very aggressive driver. He knows how to work his way to the front. He was in first place at Atlanta a few races ago, our other super speedway that we just added this year. Ended up getting wrecked out in typical Ricky Stenhouse Jr. fashion, but if he could just stay alive in this race, which I know is a very tall task for Ricky, the upside is certainly there, and we're talking about a potential race winner in the mid-range over on both fantasy sites. And coming in at number 3, another driver I don't typically like talking up, but it's Bubba Wallace, $8,100 over on DraftKings and all the way up to $11,500 over on FanDuel. So some very steep pricing for Bubba Wallace, but like I said, pricing really does not matter much this weekend. But if you're wondering why he's getting such a price bump, it's because he has similar odds to win this race in Vegas to guys like Austin Cindric, who won the Daytona 500, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott. Bubba Wallace, while he doesn't have quite the name value as those guys, he's a very, very solid plate racer. And if you're looking at his recent finishes at super speedways, we're talking 13th, 2nd, 1st, and 3rd. Yes, he did win the most recent race at Talladega. Got to keep in mind it was rain shortened, but he is still one of the best drivers at plate races, has one of the better average running positions, and his team owner is Denny Hamlin, who's one of the absolute best drivers in the field at these. So if he can work with him in draft, he should be in line for another really solid finish, as long as he can keep it clean until the end, which everybody has an equal chance of wrecking. So some guys are just a little bit better at staying alive than others, but Bubba Wallace, while he can be aggressive and it can get him into trouble, it seems to have worked out for him lately at super speedways, and I'm willing to keep banking on that. I'm hoping the alleviated price tag does keep some people off of him, because he really is an excellent GPP play most weeks that we're at super speedways. And coming in at number 2, we have Joey Logano, $10,300 over on DraftKings, all the way up to $13,500 over on FanDuel. But any single time we're at Daytona or Talladega, I always got to talk my man Joey up, because he is one of the absolute best in the field at these track types. Always going to be a top-level dominator, always seems to get up front. He's actually averaging the most laps led at Talladega in recent years, and the Penske cars tend to find themselves up front. They are strong each and every single time. It's never a surprise to see Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, used to be Brad Keselowski, but now Austin Cindric, forming a train at the front of the field and just dominating this race. And I would be very surprised if we don't see something similar to that this weekend. The only problem with Joey is he always tends to qualify a little high, so it makes him purely a tournament play, but he could be one of those guys that starts in the upper teens to like 8 to 10 range that happens to sneak into the optimal lineup if they end up winning this race. The problem with Joey is, while he drives very, very well here, he always seems to find himself in trouble. It's usually him and his whole teammate Brad Keselowski linking up, and one of them gets sent into the wall. So as long as he stays clean, which again is not something he does quite often at these, the upside and ceiling is very high and could easily win this race. And before we get into our next pick, I want to talk about our sponsor, Prize Picks. They offer daily prop-based contests. Use promo code Awesemo for a $100 first match deposit bonus. There is no sharks, optimizers, or mass entries. 5-player lineups can add up to 10 times your entry fee. Use your knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sport entries. You can download in the App Store, on Google Play, or play on prizepicks.com. Use our free player props tool to help you make the best selections. And you can get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. You'll receive your email within 24 to 48 hours after you redeem your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And finally, my number 1 play for the GEICO 500 at Talladega. It's no other than my man Ryan Blaney, $10,500 over on DraftKings, and the most expensive driver over on FanDuel and DraftKings as well at $14,000. But in recent years, Ryan Blaney has kind of overtaken Denny Hamlin as being the best driver at super speedways. Like, he is absolutely killing them. The past 11 races at them, he has 7 top 10 finishes, 5 top 10s, has 3 wins, the best average running position, the best average finish, nearly 40 DraftKings points per race. He just knows how to drive super well at these tracks. He's a Penske car, and they always tend to drive very well, like I was talking about with Joey Logano, like Brad Keselowski in the past, and we saw a Penske car win the Daytona 500 earlier this season. Would not be surprised if we see another one in victory lane. And Ryan Blaney would definitely be my top choice, because both him and Joey Logano are very good drivers here, but Ryan Blaney seems to be able to keep himself much cleaner than Joey, more often than not. Someone to take a little bit more bets on Blaney no matter where he's starting. As long as he's not in the front row, I think Ryan Blaney should certainly be on your radar as far as tournaments go this weekend. So just to recap, we have at number 5, Ty Dillon, number 4, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., number 3, Bubba Wallace, number 2, Joey Logano, and number 1, Ryan Blaney. And all these drivers have one thing in common, is that they are very solid super speedway racers. Some a little bit more riskier than not, like Ricky Stenhouse, like Joey Logano and Bubba Wallace, but we want upside at these types of tracks, and while the volatility is high, the ceilings can certainly pay off for them. And if you did end up enjoying today's content, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below agreeing or disagreeing with anything we had to say, as we love to hear the opinions of all of our Awesemo members and community over on YouTube. You can also follow us on Sunday for the Live Before Lock show, where me and Jason will break down the entire slate and answer any questions you may end up having after we know the qualifying order, which will be much easier to talk about as we break down the entire slate. And with that being said, I do wish you all the best of luck. I am super excited for Talladega, as it is one of my favorite tracks in all of NASCAR.